Driving is a real skill. Even though most adults can drive to a certain extent, they're not enough to be professional. But that's not the case for the people in this video. These are the masters at the wheel. These are 20 most talented drivers in the world. Number 20. Jeep Vertical Climb. We'll begin with one that on the surface does seem impossible, because in theory no vehicle should be able to climb a rock face of any kind that's straight up a 90-degree angle. First and foremost, there won't be anything to have traction to, and secondly, gravity only has one direction, and that's down. So the vehicle in question would just be pulled down immediately. Thirdly, one slip up and that car is going to crash quite hard. So why is it that there are so many videos out there that show Jeeps climbing verticals, as they're known? Well, that's because these Jeeps are literally built for climbing the toughest of surfaces, and just as important, they're not climbing sheer rock walls at 90 degrees, they're doing it close to 90 degrees. Straight from the factory, Jeeps already have multiple features that make them ideal for an extreme form of off-roading known as rock crawling. For example, thanks to its short wheelbase, super flat front end, 33-inch tires, and 10.8 inches of ground clearance, the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon has an approach angle of 44 degrees. But there's more to it than that. The power that's put into the wheels is also crucial, because if the balance of power is off, the Jeep would just spin its wheels or even crash. So thus, these Jeeps have special systems to ensure that all four wheels have the grip that they need. And of course, there are the drivers. These people are nuts for wanting to do such a thing, and you have to have the right level of courage and craziness to make something like this happen. So if you're missing the message, it's probably something you shouldn't try at home. Number 19. Volvo Truck Driving. We can all acknowledge that different vehicles have different levels of skill that are needed to drive them, and that's why you need licenses to drive things like trains and boats and, of course, airplanes. But another vehicle that needs a license to be driven is that of a commercial semi-truck. Now, don't forget, these are lumbering behemoths at times that can absolutely cause havoc on the road if people aren't careful with them, and I'm sure that some of you out there can list quite a few times when a semi got dangerously close to knocking you off the road. Don't worry, it happened to me as well. The reason that I'm bringing it all up is because with this Volvo truck driver, I have a little bit of a different story. Not only is this driver handling the semi like an absolute legend, he's doing it on a dime and even did a dance move style job of putting the vehicle in reverse in order to get it into that parking spot. That's not just a skill, it's an actual talent. What's more, this was for a driving test in Europe of all places, and it seems to me that if you're in that continent, you really need to know your stuff in order to be allowed to drive on the road. Which, for the record, I totally support and appreciate. Could you imagine if all truck drivers were able to drive their trucks like this? Not only would there be fewer car accidents, but you'd actually be able to do something like a ballet with these trucks, and it would be really cool to see. Perhaps there's actually money to be made here. Number 18. Bus and the Himalayas. One thing that can't be said enough is that one of the reasons that driving is so dangerous is not just because of the people that are behind the wheel, but the road conditions. For many parts of the world right now, ice on the roads is becoming something to worry about once again, but for many parts of the world as a whole, their roads aren't exactly the safest around in a more organic sense. What do I mean by that? Well, take a look at this footage that was shot by a person who was on a bus in the Himalayas. As you can see right off the bat, not only are they really high up, about 1,800 plus feet, but the edge of the road is literally the edge of the mountain cliff that they're driving on, and there are no safety railings. Yes, there is literally nothing that could catch them or even try to prevent them from crashing down to the depths below if something were to go wrong. This is very real and it's very dangerous. That makes it all the more impressive that the bus driver doesn't seem fazed by any of it at all. And to be fair, he does get out of the bus multiple times to check on the road and ensure that there are no obstacles for when he passes through the curves, but even still, he gets really close to the edge at times. Believe it or not though, there are even worse roads than this in various countries, especially in places like South America, and as a result, people won't drive them out of fear of dying. Clearly, this bus driver, though, is a daredevil because he's one man who has no fear. Number 17. The 360 Loop. Now I'm going to touch upon a driver's skill in another metric, because so far we've talked about people who have gone and used their skills in very practical settings and areas, but now I'll talk about stunt drivers, because you can bet that if there's a crazy world record for a car stunt, someone is going to try it, and they do indeed need the skills to make it work. Case in point, Terry Grant, a man who decided to do a Guinness World Record by driving his Jaguar in a literal 360 via a loop that was made for the stunt. Now, you may think at first that this isn't that much of a trick, as you've probably done loops on things like roller coasters, but the catch here is that those rides are built to ensure that the cart goes the full loop, and should something go wrong, and it has in the past, you'll only be stuck on the ride and not, falling to your doom. But with this stunt, that safety net isn't there. Plus, doing it in a vehicle is much harder because of the G-forces that are involved that are literally pushing against your body. After 2 months of preparations to make sure that his body was ready to withstand the severe G-force, Grant completed the 62-foot-tall 360-degree circle, and he noted that he had to hit a speed of 55 miles per hour in order to make it all work. So yeah, stunt drivers do have a lot of guts to try and pull off the stunts that they aim to do, but then again, don't try this at home. Number 16. Britain's best bus driver. Now, it's no surprise that a lot of people have a bit of a worry when there's ice and snow and perhaps even heavy rains on the roads. Slick roads means that you have less traction, and the bigger the vehicle you have, the more skill that you need in order to ensure that you're not flying all over the place. So a thing like a bus would be something that's incredibly dangerous to drive on a road in icy conditions unless you're this guy from Britain, because the video shows that there is an icy road with a lot of curves in it, and a lot of cars are struggling to gain traction and get both up and down that path, even showing some people trying to push their cars to a spot just so they can regroup and try it again. Enter this bus driver. He arrives 30 seconds into the video, and it looks as though it's going to be a disaster, likely one that ends with the bus hitting a lot of vehicles and then sliding with them on the way down. However, that doesn't happen at all. Not only does the bus driver make it through with ease, it doesn't hit a single car on the way up. In fact, it doesn't even look like it broke stride as it made those turns. So yes, you can see why some people are labeling that person Britain's best bus driver, because that is some serious skill, and they literally are people on the side of the road likely wondering what just happened. Number 15. Amalfi Coast bus driver. Now we'll dive into yet another bus driver experience for the ages, because on the Amalfi Coast, there's a set of roads that are dangerous for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which is that, like the Himalayas, they don't have a lot of safety features, and they do at times go into the water themselves. As you're about to see in this video, the roads aren't actually wide enough to handle multiple large vehicles, like, say, a couple of buses. But apparently the official guide encourages you to trust the bus drivers that are there, because they're really good at what they do, and these tight spaces don't seem to bother them at all. These bus drivers are very skilled, so it is safe to use the service, and because of road traffic, sometimes they do get stuck for long periods of time, but the experienced coach drivers easily operate their service in these narrow and twisting drives. And if their word isn't enough for you, and to be fair, it wouldn't be enough for us at first, there's actually a video that showcases just how much skill that these drivers have. This includes having multiple instances of a bus getting stuck because of another bus, and using insane precision to get through without a whole lot of stalling. One could argue that the reason for such skill is being able to anticipate the roads and having experience in knowing how to handle both the roads and the challenges that they present. Given that, it's not hard to see why Amalfi is boasting their bus drivers as being excellent. Number 14. Family of stunt drivers. And now back to stunt drivers we go. We could have easily spent the whole list talking about them, but I wanted to spice it up, if you will. Don't worry though, these entries are very much worth it, and they're Twinkle approved. The annual Evel Knievel Festival in Montana, yes, that's a thing, sees amazing jumps and incredible action every year. But it's not every year that they see history actually being made. The Godfrey family is one that's devoted to motorsports and extreme stunts. Two of its members participated in one such event event and did manage to break records, which is impressive in and of itself. 46-year-old Greg Godfrey drove a semi-truck over the Legends gas guzzler, beating the last world record that was set in 2014 by his nephew Tanner. He nearly doubled the record length of the jump at 166 feet. 27-year-old Tanner then set the record for a UTV, which is a two-seater off-road vehicle. While this feat was amazing, it's made even more special by the fact that Tanner has recovered from a spinal cord injury that left him paralyzed in 2007. He has since regained his ability to walk and never slowed down. He beat the previous record of a 198-foot jump by just 6 feet. So yes, that's a talented family of drivers, but don't miss the side message here. Stunt driving is actually very dangerous. It almost took Tanner's mobility away for good, and so, even though this is an inspirational story, you still need to be very careful before you even think of trying to do any of this kind of driving yourself. Number 13. Monster Jam 2017. What's better than big trucks doing incredible things that they shouldn't be able to do but are totally allowed to do? Well, nothing at all. And when it comes to Monster Jam, this is where monster trucks go to make their name in various ways. In 2017, the event was apparently so good that multiple memorable moments were had, which shows not only how much fun the event was, but how much skill the drivers had in order to perform all of those stunts. Shall I list some of the highlights for you? Well, how about a sky wheelie turned nose wheelie, or a monster truck doing a corkscrew in the air and landing on the ground without any issues? Perhaps a truck doing 3 backflips in the air without a care in the world. There was also the first ever forward momentum backflip by Neil Elliott at Monster Jam World Finals. Add to all of that there was the longest nose wheelie that lasted 1 minute and 15 seconds by Gravedigger's Tyler Meninga. The kind of skill that's presented in all of this should be very evident to everyone, because these are massive trucks that are doing stunts that are usually reserved for cars and specialty rides, if not just plain motorcycles and dirt bikes alike. So when you see these trucks performing and doing incredible stunts like this, make no mistake, this is a skill, and don't deny it. You would totally drive one of these vehicles if you were given the chance. Well, so would I, my friend. So would I. Number 12. The Jaguar Barrel Roll. Now remember that Terry Grant guy from before? You know, the guy who did the 360 loop in a Jaguar that he needed 2 months of prep to withstand? Well, that's not the only record that he's broken in a Jaguar. In fact, he broke another one in an equally insane stunt to help welcome the Jaguar E-Pace into the world. Jaguar's compact performance SUV achieved an epic 15.3 meter long jump that was complete with a 270-degree corkscrew-like barrel roll. And to make it clear just how much of a challenge this was, Terry Grant experienced a stomach-turning 5.5 Gs over the course of the flip. Yet not only did he do it, he was also able to land without any problems, cementing the record and giving the E-Pace a great way to begin its life on the road. Now yes, some would note that he not only took off from a ramp and then landed on a dirt ramp on the other side of the barrel roll, but do you think that you could do that and land it on the first try? And again, the G-forces that are pressed onto Terry's body is more than enough to hurt you if you're not actually prepared for it. I should also mention that the jolt of landing, which you can see in the clip, could also destroy you if you're not focused and don't recover from it quickly. Terry has actually set over 20 world records doing stunts like this one, and that makes him clearly the man. Number 11. Truck versus Formula One car. Now this is a stunt that's not only mind-boggling, but could have easily gone wrong in a variety of ways. In this stunt, a semi-truck is put up against a Formula One race car, and the goal is to not see who's faster, because obviously the Formula One would win, but rather to see that, if when jumped on a ramp, could the car go under the semi before it lands and thus leave both vehicles mostly unscathed. Now, as noted, this is not something for the faint of heart, as this could easily have taken lives. But since we're talking about it right now, it's clear that it didn't. In fact, not only did it work properly, it looked really super cool, and a world record was set as a result. The truck jumped an incredible 83 feet and 7 inches, which according to EMC and Lotus, who organized the stunt, is a world record. Stunt coordinator Mike Ryan called it one of his dream stunts, all in part because it was one that he had never ever done before. And now he has. But just as important, he did it in a way that no one will surely ever forget. Seriously though, it has been done, so there's absolutely no need to go and do it again, people. Number 10. Two-wheeled tire change. While the last stunt may have been crazy, the next one is very much on the edges of these people are actually crazy people, but I mean that in the best way possible. Here's the scenario. A group of Saudi Arabians are driving a car and need to change the tires on the left side of the vehicle. It's pretty simple, right? Except that they decide to do it while they're still driving. Yes, the driver literally puts the car up on a tilt via its right tires, and then the group, save for the driver of course, balances themselves on the body of the vehicle and then changes the tires. Add to that, they actually do it successfully. What is this madness? Do they not realize or even care that if just one thing went wrong, they were all screwed? Or maybe they just forgot to bring the jack. True, certain stunt drivers can balance a car like that for a while, but it's not actually meant to be done with people on the body of the ride. And if I have to say to you, don't try this at home, then you probably need some serious help.